Welcome to the devotional for Thursday, December the 16th. The title of this devotional is, There is no fool like an old fool. Our scripture reading is 1 Kings chapter 11 and 2 Chronicles chapter 9. Now, we have concluded our study of the book of Ecclesiastes as we continue our chronological study of the scriptures. And now we come to the final years of Solomon, king of Israel, the son of David. Now you're going to notice as you have your scripture reading today, 2 Chronicles chapter 9 is a parallel account of 1 Kings chapter 10. Now, as a reminder, the book of 1 Kings was recorded before the Babylonian captivity. Its parallel account in the 1st and 2nd Chronicles was penned after Israel returned from captivity. Now, 2 Chronicles chapter 9, and of course, again, the parallel 1 Kings chapter 10. Now, once again, we read of the Queen of Sheba's visit to Jerusalem, which details the purpose of her visit, describes the great caravan that accompanied her, and lists the special gifts she presented to Solomon. You find that in the first 10 verses of 1 Kings chapter 10. Now, Solomon's wisdom, the vast wealth of his kingdom, had gotten international fame, and the Queen of Sheba, believed to have been a rich kingdom in southern Arabian Peninsula, had heard of the fame of Solomon in 2 Chronicles 9 and verse 1, and came to hear and see if the king was as great as the rumors she had heard of in her kingdom. Well, she came to prove, or that is to test Solomon with hard questions, and he spoke all that was on her heart, or she did. Now, she tested Solomon. And then we read in 2 Chronicles 9 and verse 3, she inspected the house that he had built, saw the evidence of his administrative skills, the rich apparel of those who assisted him. And the queen concluded all that she had heard of the king was not only true, but that his wisdom exceeded his fame. And moreover, we read that she observed of the servants of Solomon that they were all happy. That is, that they all served with joy. They were blessed in their service. Now, the balance of our reading in 2 Chronicles 9 parallels the record in 1 Kings chapter 10. We've had the gifts the Queen of Sheba brought and presented to the king, and his gifts to her. The opulence of the king's palace, including the throne of ivory covered in gold, is also recorded. Also, the approach to Solomon's throne was unlike any other kingdom in the world, being appointed with 12 lions. His wealth was so great that he displayed beaten shields of gold in his summer palace known as the Forest of Lebanon. Now, although Solomon's death is recorded in 2 Chronicles 9, the writer of that book did not give us a tragic commentary on the last years of Solomon's life. And for that dreadful tale, we continue our scripture reading in 1 Kings chapter 11. Now, after stating the fame of Solomon's wisdom and the vast wealth of his kingdom in 2 Chronicles, or 1 Chronicles 10, we read how the king was disobedient to God in his last years, and sadly the consequences of his sins. Following the pattern of heathen kings who seek alliances with other kingdoms by marriage, the king Solomon had taken into his palace many strange women, including the daughter of Pharaoh, the women of the Moabites, the Ammonites, the Edomites, Zidonians, and the Hittites. Who were these women? They were all heathens and idol worshippers. And despite God's warning, Solomon gave his affections, and his wives turned away his heart after other gods. And sadly, we read that Solomon did evil in the sight of the Lord. 1 Kings chapter 11. Now, consider this then. Who were the gods of Solomon's wives? Well, Ashtaroth, the goddess of the Zidonians, she was the Canaanite goddess of sex and war. Milcom, also known as Molech, to whom the Ammonites and later even Israel sacrificed their children, human sacrifice. And the king also built a high place, a place of worship for Chemosh, the god of the Moabites. Rather than the blessing of the Lord, the latter years of Solomon's reign provoked God's wrath. And because the king had disobeyed the Lord and kept not that which was the Lord's commandment, The peace of Israel was replaced with turmoil, and God forewarned the kingdom upon his death would be divided. The Lord raised up, as we read in 1 Kings 11, 14 through 22, three adversaries against Solomon: Hadad the Edomite, Rezon, who reigned over Syria, and then Jeroboam, who would really be a thorn in his side all the days of his life. Jeroboam fled to Egypt during Solomon's reign. But we also know that Jeroboam had been appointed by the Lord to rend, to tear the kingdom, tear Israel out of the hand of Solomon, and his son would face the consequences of God's judgment for Solomon's wickedness. Upon Solomon's death, Jeroboam, we know later, would lead an uprising against Rehoboam, the son of Solomon, and the heir. And Jeroboam would take away 10 of the 12 tribes to follow him. The tribe of Judah would remain loyal to Solomon's lineage, and the tribe of Benjamin, which was incorporated within Judah's territory. Closing thoughts on this devotional. Our study of Solomon's life in his 40-year reign concludes with the revelation that he went the way of all men. We read that he died and he slept with his fathers and was buried in the city of David his father, and Rehoboam reigned in his stead. Let me close with some observations. When Solomon was young, we know from the scriptures that his heart was tender, and he enjoyed the blessings of the Lord. Tragically, when he was old, the king made wicked, foolish choices that shadowed the final years of his life. The consequences of his sin not only brought sorrow upon his life, but brought ruin upon his family and ultimately the kingdom. Someone has said an old fool is the worst kind of fool, and there is no fool like an old fool. Whether young or old, the wise choose the path of righteousness, and sadly the fools choose the way of sin. And I close asking you the question, what path are you following? I invite you once again, why don't you take a moment and like this video, and please subscribe to www.heartofashepherd.com, one word, heartofashepherd.com, and have the daily devotionals that I am reading to you on this video, have them sent to your email address. And by the way, there will be bonus devotionals that will be available only to those who subscribe. I hope that you'll take the time to do exactly that. heartofashepherd.com. Thank you and God bless. Bye-bye.